This week, the Philippines have accused the Chinese Coast Guard of behaving like pirates. Footage released by the Philippine military shows Chinese Coast Guard officers carrying axes and knives, ramming and slashing the Filipino boats, illegally boarding to take them over. Eventually, those boats looted and then abandoned. Both countries have blamed each other for the confrontation that took place during a Philippine mission to resupply stationed soldiers. So let's dig into this. Joining me now, retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, Senior Fellow at Defense Priorities and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Colonel, great to see you again. First of all, what is going on here? Are you surprised at these tactics?
I am actually, because look, this has been going on for quite a long time. I mean, many years. Kind of the flashpoint of this particular area, anyway, is a sunken ship that many years ago the Philippines Navy sunk on top of a shallow reef that has kind of served as an eyesore, and they've actually manned it almost as a forward outpost because they want to say this is our sea, this is where we have jurisdiction. China also says they have jurisdiction. So there's been many years of dispute over who owns this stuff. But here of late, China has been stepping up its action. There was actually back on March 5th a situation where one of the Chinese ships rammed a Filipino vessel. So this has been going on, and now we see it seems to have gone a step further where they've taken physical action against the boats and against the crews. So it's certainly going to get a lot of attention, and it looks to me like China is starting to get a little bit more aggressive and possibly even to just cause the U.S. some trouble with one of our key allies in the region. Yeah,
so Lieutenant Colonel, I mean, we see in the video there those men wielding knives, it looks like axes. I mean, the Philippines military chief of staff says, quote, only pirates do this. Do you agree? I mean, is this essentially the work of pirates?
I mean, you can't dispute what happened there. I mean, that doesn't sound like a respectful, normal state in how they're behaving there. But it just seems that China's getting a little bit more aggressive on staking their claims here. And we already know that over the last decade or so, they've made a number of man-made islands in the region, which don't necessarily pose a significant risk for the United States, because frankly, a fixed position like that can easily be hit in the terms of war. But it's putting markers down, physical markers down, that China's saying this is our territory and we're going to do more. So everybody, we all need to be watching to see, is China going to get aggressive anywhere else?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this was a sharp escalation. You know, you mentioned the fact this is a U.S. ally. What could this mean going forward? How should the U.S. be viewing what is happening?
Well, you can't take this out of context of everything else. And you just had Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin meet together. Putin just met with Kim Jong-un. In Vietnam, they had some new deal that was signed there. So you see that those two nations and now several others are starting to band together to say, hey, they're going to impose their will over the region, and they're going to say, hey, it's time for this, unipolar moment of the United States to be over, and we want people to start switching to us in our area. It looks like they're getting a little bit more aggressive, and maybe they're trying to spread us thin to where we're active all over the place, Russia, Ukraine, in the Middle East with the Israel-Hamas war, now trying to cause problems here. And at some point, it can become too much and could, well, it could just cause the United States some headaches that make it difficult.
Lieutenant Colonel, I feel like you are reading my mind here because, one day we are talking about potential threats from Russia and North Korea. The next day, we're talking about potential threats from China. It seems like such a volatile time, but is this normal, so to speak? Are there always these type of potential threats?
I mean, there's always this kind of an issue. Like I said, I mean, there's been these issues for quite a number of years. And, like I said, going back to March, there was a physical collision of ships, but it's kind of been one-off, and then it kind of goes back down. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. And thankfully, nobody was actually harmed. But you see, it wouldn't take much for something to get out of control and for people to be killed on one side or the other, and then this thing could get sparked into something bigger. The question that I don't know the answer to right now is China trying to spark something? Do they want to cause some kind of a crisis or an issue in the area? That remains to be seen. Or are they just trying to be bullies to maybe make Philippines back out, which is simply not going to happen. But it's troublesome, I'll tell you that.
Well, who should we be most concerned about? I mean, we have Iran, we have North Korea, we have China, we have Russia.
Well, China and Russia have nuclear weapons, so that's a definite one that I'm worried more about them than anybody else. But the issue is that they keep banding closer and closer together. In part, we have to admit, because of a lot of our coercive actions elsewhere. And I know nobody likes to hear that we have any role in that, but it is a fact that some of the things we do have consequences, and now it's pushing them closer together. And it's something we better put some serious diplomacy into and not just try to threaten people, or it's going to get worse.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, I certainly appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.